Greetings everyone, my name is Nikita Kavuma and I'm the founder of Feministone Ministry Organization, and our cause is to help children who are suffering child labor abuse in our society. Today I'll be sharing with you a presentation that I've compiled with regards to the knowledge and the aspect of what child labor abuse is, so that we are well informed and we understand how we can deal with it as a society. Our definition of a child is anyone under the age of 18 years old who may or may not be in pre-primary or secondary school, as well as is or is in need of parental guidance, care, and responsibility. So a child is somebody who's younger than 18 years old, whether they go to school or they don't go to school, whether they have parents or they do have parents. According to the International Labour Organization, child labor refers to work that is mentally, physically, socially, or morally dangerous and harmful to children and interferes with their schooling by depriving them of the opportunity to attend school, by obligating them to leave school prematurely, or requiring them to attempt combined school attendance with excessively long and heavy work. In its most extreme forms, it involves children being enslaved, separated from their families, exposed to serious health hazards and illnesses, and or left to fend for themselves on the streets of large cities. That's how child labor abuse becomes a problem that can extend to certain and almost different aspects of life in which children are affected. Child labor abuse around the world. According to Compassion International, worldwide, 160 million children are victims of child labor abuse. 79 million of them work in hazardous conditions. Almost half of the 160 million victims are aged between 5 and 11 years old. Sub-Saharan African accounts for almost half of child labor, with 86.6 million child labor victims, followed by 26.3 million child labor victims in Southeast Asia, as well as 24.3 million in Eastern and Southern Asia, as well as 10.1 million child labor victims in Northern Africa and Western Asia, as well as 8.2 million child victims in Latin America, and 3.8 million child labor victims in Europe and Northern America. Who could be your child labor abuser? So as we know, child labor abuse is something that is perpetrated and is done against children, and they are human traffickers, family or community members, organizations or institutions. What are the signs of child labor abuse? It was also said by the United Nations Children Fund that child labor is linked to child trafficking. Children who are trafficked are subject to the following: prostitution, forced into marriage or illegally adopted, provide cheap or unpaid labor, forced to work as house servants or beggars, recruited into armed groups. Children are forced into situations that are dangerous and that could cost their lives. So we believe that child labor abuse is a problem that should not be perpetrated against children, because we as a Christian-based organization believe in the love of God. We also believe that every human being should be treated with respect and honor, whether they are old or a child. And so our scripture verse for our organization comes from Psalm 23 verse 1 to 6, and it reads as follows: "The Lord is my shepherd, I have everything I need. He lets me rest in fields of green grass and leads me to quiet pools of fresh water. He gives me new strength. He guides me in the right paths as he has promised. Even if I go through the deepest darkness, I will not be afraid, Lord, for you are with me. You prepare a banquet for me where all my enemies can see me. You welcome me as an honored guest. You fill my cup to the brim. I know that your goodness and love will be with me, and your house will be my home as long as I live." A 3-step support plan for any child who needs support with regards to getting out of this problem. If you're in this problem, I encourage you, tell somebody who's closest to you that you can trust with the information about the problem you're going through. Next is, I encourage you to contact your nearest police station with them. Take the step further to go to the police and inform them about what you're going through. The last step is, I encourage you to stay tuned to a Feministone Ministry Organization update with regards to being educated about what child labor abuse is and how we as an organization are combating it. If you have a child or you know of a child who was abducted from child labor abuse, I encourage you to pray about it, talk to God about it, have faith about it. God is faithful. We know that God does allow situations to happen that are unfortunate, but we do know that the Bible does say that when we turn to Him with our prayers, God is capable of answering those prayers. And nevertheless, I also encourage you to stay tuned to our social media platforms so that you can support on account of this problem that's prevalent in our society. Till we do see you again.